Hello, my name is Trevor Taylor. I'm a program manager at Microsoft in the robotics group, and today I'm going to show you how to get started writing a service with Robotics Developer Studio written in C#. I'm going to use Visual Studio Team System. However, you can actually use Visual Studio Express Edition if you want to. The first thing you need to do is start Visual Studio. You need to have installed Visual Studio prior to installing Robotics Developer Studio so that you get the correct templates. When I go to the File menu here and say File, New, Project, you'll see that I actually have two different versions of the templates because I've got Robotics Developer Studio 2008 as well as the 2008 R2 version, which we also call internally 2.1. So I'm going to build a 2.1 service because that's the latest version, and I'll call it Test Service. So I need to give it a name, and I also need to specify where to create the actual project. My suggestion is that you always create your projects underneath the installation point for Robotics Developer Studio, which you can see here, and I create a folder called Projects and put all of my stuff in there. That means that if I want to move things to another computer or to another version of Robotics Developer Studio, I just pick up the whole projects folder and take it all over in one lump, and I don't have to go and move all of my services individually. So I'll say OK. That starts up the wizard. The wizard actually has a number of things that you can specify. By default, it's put today's month and year in there, which is a way to make this particular service unique. So I can create a lot of different services with the same name, but I can have different dates. There's also a namespace. Some companies like to use their own company name in here, so we can put my company or whatever your policy is locally. You also need to specify a domain name. If you don't change this value here, schemas.tempuri.org, you'll get a warning message when you try to compile saying you really should change this because it's actually just a temporary value. So again, what I might do is put mycompany.com. Now, this URI doesn't have to exist. This is not a page on the internet. What we've done with contract identifiers in Robotics Developer Studio is we've used a URI format, so it looks like a URL or a URI, but in fact it's just a way of making a unique name that is nice and human readable. There's a couple of other tabs in here that we can also look at. Before I move on, leave Subscription Manager ticked because I'm going to use that later, and you can also have XML comments if you like. Partners allow you to communicate with other services. You see here there's a long list of services that are available. What happens is that the wizard actually goes out, has a look in Robotics Developer Studio in the bin folder, finds all of the available services that are there and enumerates them and lists them for you here. So it's very easy for you to add in a partner by simply saying I'd like one of these. I'm not going to do that right now for this particular example. The other tab that you've got here is alternate contracts. We specify a number of what we refer to as generic contracts. You'll see some of them down here. We've got a generic analog sensor, generic battery, generic motor, and so on. If you conform to one of those contracts, which you can think of as an interface or an API, then other services can use your service using that standard interface. They can also use any other services that might be written to use the same interface. One of the most commonly used ones is a generic differential drive, which allows you to use any robot that has two wheels in a differential drive configuration. And you don't have to know anything about the specific robot because the generic differential drive defines a standard set of operations you can perform. Again, I'm not going to worry about that for right now. What I'll do instead is just allow the wizard to go and create my service. And here we go. We've got several files that have been created. The first one, testservice.cs, is the main service. I'll go through each of these and point out some of the important features.